Welcome everybody to 8 tips to reset your classroom. Anthony Childs here, and we have been in school for over 3 months now. Some people a little bit less than that, but I am sure that the newness of the school year has wore off and you have some students in your classroom that are giving you a difficult time. Well, here's 8 quick tips to be able to, again, reset your classroom regardless of where you are in the school day or in the school year, So let me ask you these in form of a question. The first question is, do you have clear expectations? Now, at the beginning of the year, it was important for you to establish those and to make sure that those were clear so there was no ambiguity about how you have your rules and expectations in your classroom. But if you did, you can relaunch those, right? But you want to make sure that you communicate clear expectations with the students. So again, there's no gray area in how you deliver those. You should have started this off with day one again, but if not, every day can be day one, and you can reset those expectations. Now, after the Christmas break and after Thanksgiving break are great opportunities, again, to reset those expectations with students so that you can relaunch that classroom and make sure that the rest of the school year is off with being successful. And I'm going to say this over and over again, but reteach if necessary. Listen, we reteach if students don't understand math. We reteach if students don't understand parts of reading and literature. We want to make sure that we reteach expectations and behavior because the more we do it, the students will become more successful. The second question I'll ask you is, do you have consistent discipline? When you deliver consequences, are you fair and consistent in delivering it? For example, if Anthony comes in today with a cell phone and then tomorrow John comes in and you take his phone, students are going to see that gap in that expectation or in that consistency, and they are going to take a mile and run with it. So it's important that you make sure that you're fair and consistent in delivering those expectations. The next thing you want to focus on especially is making sure that you teach students about responsibility and accountability. Now, that can take on different forms, but being consistent teaches them to be able to do that. Now, when we're inconsistent, we're teaching students that, hey, I don't have to worry about this. Somebody else is going to take care of it. So make sure, again, being fair and consistent goes a long way. And last but not least, reteach if necessary. If you need to double back and say, hey, you know what, students, I admit I was wrong. And sometimes that's tough for adults to say. But if you say I was wrong, I think the students especially are going to be more appreciative of that you are transparent and you're modeling that making mistakes is not all that bad. We can double back again and we can relaunch for everyone to be successful. So make sure that you are consistent and make sure that that discipline is always fair when you can. The next question I'll ask you is, do you have positive reinforcement? Now, listen, you all, we want to focus on what we want the students to do and not just on the negative. Now, research states that we really should have 7 positives to 1 negative to really be in a thriving environment. I'm saying do 4 to 1 because really it's hard to even get to that point, right? Because we really have it flipped. Every 7 negative statements that we use, we may use a positive statement, and we really need to change that in the cultural in our society anyway. But the more we focus on what we want students to do, then we're going to create that positive, predictable environment in which students can thrive. So if students are on their phones, then just say, hey, put the phone away, right? Or if the students, even better example, they're running down the hall, focus on what we want them to do. Walk, right? Because if you say don't and do not, students don't hear that. All they hear is what you heard at the end, right? Get off your phone. Do not run. All they hear is run. So it's important. Listen, just focus on the positive, but you also want to acknowledge and reward good behavior from the other students. Now, this is a hot topic because people say, well, I shouldn't have to reward students for doing all this extra stuff or just doing the basic stuff in life. But listen, in our culture today, we are rewarded all the time. Now, I'm sure everybody's got a credit card for a particular hotel. And if you stay 25 nights, guess what? You get a free night, right? If you are a safe driver on the road, then they'll actually reduce your deductible. So we get rewarded every time, and that may not be the greatest example as people want to hear, but we are rewarded. But what the whole thing is, you want to acknowledge the behavior, you want to acknowledge the behavior that students are doing well, right? Because if you focus on the negative all the time, then it creates that culture of just being defeated. The last thing in here is you want to, again, create that predictable, positive environment. And so when we focus on what we want students to do, you're going to create that environment in which they can thrive in. The next question I'm going to ask you is, do you have engaging lessons? Now, listen, sometimes students are just plain out bored, right? Now, I know the ones that produce mischief and they really get on your nerves and they're just like, hey, I don't want to be here, and they're just checked out. You're really going to have to work with those kids. But it's important that if you have engaging lessons, these are lessons that are interactive, that are relevant, and that are interesting for them. Now, I know everyone can't do a TikTok video, right, in order to engage a student and make them interested. But it's important for us when we are teaching our students that we bring in some of their background knowledge and some of their experience and things that they do like, so that, again, it's more interesting, right? And again, you may not be able to do this all the time, but when you can, incorporate it more, because students will want to be in the classroom and learn about what you are talking about. And then again, reteach if necessary. With math and reading, we reteach, but often with behavior, we just leave it to chance and say the students should already know, and oftentimes they just need more teaching. So I would even take the opportunity to have reteaching for behavior and expectations in your lesson plans. That includes some role play, because students, they often laugh at each other. But if you kind of make a joke out of how it's not cool to be disrespectful in the classroom, kind of breaks the ice a little bit and provides students, again, a safe learning environment in which they can take different risks, be funny, but also learn ultimately how to be respectful, responsible in the classroom as you're teaching. The next question I'm going to ask is, do you teach self-regulation? Now, sometimes this can be hard, and we may ask the counselor to kind of teach some of these students, but even students in high school still can be taught how to self-regulate their emotions. So you can help students identify their emotions and also manage the reactions that they have. And one quick tip that I love to be able to do is to actually do this. When a student is upset or a student has an emotional outburst, this is a 3-step process. The first thing is to just say stop. The second thing is to name the emotion. I'm upset. And the third thing is just tell them to do some deep breathing. This helps. The more they do it, stop, I am frustrated, and they breathe, then they're going to start, again, becoming aware of their emotions, and they'll be able to, again, manage those reactions. And again, this is something that you want to teach and reteach until it becomes habit for them. And then, again, everybody's going to be set up for success. The next question is, do you involve parents? Listen, it's critical, especially we always ask, hey, parents, come and be a part of your child's education. We have to start with the parents. Some parents are difficult, but collaborating with those parents is essential in order for those disruptive students to kind of be reined in a little bit. We want to make sure that we keep the parents informed about their child's behavior. Sometimes we don't call the parent until it's like the last minute, and we have this scrolling list of behaviors that they've done over the last 3 weeks, and the parents get livid. You know why? Because they don't know what's going on at the beginning. Most parents want to know what's going on throughout the year instead of it coming up to the tail end, and then they get blindsided by certain things. Now, I'm not saying that for everyone, because there are some few, regardless of whatever you say, it doesn't matter. They're going to just be frustrated, and that's okay, right? We'll learn to work with them, and we'll learn to, again, partner with us so that we can make sure that their children are successful. But I always tell everyone this. Always start off with a positive comment. I don't care if it's the 8,000th call you've had. Start off with something positive. If you start off with something negative, it's going to be easier for the parent to be defensive. You might say, well, I don't have nothing nice to say about this child. Well, if you don't, you may want to go and re-examine that, because there are good qualities in everybody, even the most difficult student, right? And this is where you have to develop a relationship with the child where you're asking them what they like, right? Because obviously when we say the child didn't follow instructions at all today, well, did they go to lunch? Did they get up and go to lunch with you? I'm sure they did, right? Did they line up to go to lunch? I mean, certain things, again, we generalize certain things. But yes, if they did that, just say, you know what, Mr. Childs, I appreciate your child going with me to lunch when I asked him to, but I need you to get him to help with when it comes to actually being on task, right? So you see how I started that positive comment? I started with the positive comment, and then I asked them to help me and assist me in their child's behavior in this particular area. It really does go a long way. So just make sure you involve parents when possible, and of course, always when necessary. The next question is, do you reflect and adapt? Now listen, being reflective is really powerful, especially when it comes to classroom management and all the things that we have to do every single day to hold our classroom intact and make sure that all of our students have success in the classroom. So the first thing you have to do is regularly reflect on your practices. When we regularly reflect on our practices, then we're able to learn what went well and what didn't go well, and you're more apt to try new things. Every classroom is unique, so even if you look at some other teacher and they have a classroom that's rocking and rolling with a specific strategy, that may not work for your class. So you have to remember that, right? Every class is different, and you want to make sure that you just notice that and know that you may have to do something different with your class than another class. And listen, always be willing to adjust your approach. If you're willing to do that, then they're going to be more likely to shift with you and adapt as you try to make sure what's going to work best again in your classroom. And the last one, you all, is to seek professional development. Let me ask you that. Do you have training specifically to help dealing with difficult students or just managing your classroom? It's important that if you don't, listen, I got an online course for classroom management and creating positive habits. I get into more specifics, not only about basic classroom management, but why students do what they do by creating those habits. Now, especially I hope you know, as well as I do, that habits just form over time, right? It's not something that just happens overnight, but these are things that we do. And so not giving an excuse to what students do or what we even do as adults, but once we learn about what habits are and how they're formed, then we're better off being able to change what we do. And so in this course, you're going to get access to 8 effective strategies using a positive acronym. You're also going to learn about the root of habits and how we can change them, not using the cue or the reward, but we're going to change the routine in order to be able to help us be successful with changing the habits. Again, done over time. We're also going to learn how to create positive relationships with students. Again, giving simple, quick techniques to be able to utilize that. And I'm also going to give you exclusive access on staples. These are simple techniques to achieve a positive learning environment, even more in depth. And again, all of that, you all, is for you to be able to continue to learn and grow in the area of classroom management. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this, but again, don't be afraid to seek out professional development. It's really important, and that additional training will give you insights and help you along the way. It's important that we start each day new. So listen, these 8 quick tips to reset your classroom. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the school year. If you need some more help, you need some more things, tools, come follow me, because I'm going to be throwing out some content every week to be able to help everyone thrive in the classroom.